Hello, and thank you so much for joining us for today's MobileCause webinar, Last Minute Strategies to Boost Year-End Giving. I'm Scott Couchman, the Training Manager at MobileCause. Now, ready or not, December is here. Whether you're struggling with starting your year-end efforts or looking to up-level your current campaign, now is the time to start ramping up your efforts to obtain those important last donations of the year. Today's webinar is going to arm you with quick, easy ways to focus and optimize your campaign for year-end giving success. And don't worry if you think you're running out of opportunities for an impactful campaign. You still have plenty of time to implement all the great ideas and tips that we're about to share with you. So grab something to take notes and get ready for an informative discussion on how you can fire up your year-end fundraising and take it to that next level in these last few weeks and days of 2019. We welcome your participation in today's presentation, so please feel free to ask any questions about your year-end giving campaign by submitting them into the questions box on your GoToWebinar control panel. We will answer questions directly to the participants during the webinar and also at the end when we have an open Q&A session with our experts. We really hope you enjoy our webinar, and as a quick reminder, we will be sending out the recording and the slides to all our registrants afterwards. Okay, so today's webinar is presented by MobileCause. MobileCause understands the everyday challenges nonprofits face, constantly confronted with limited resources, yet still expected to expand your impact. You shouldn't have to face these challenges alone, and that's why MobileCause offers more than comprehensive fundraising software. We also provide one-on-one strategy from dedicated fundraising experts and have the industry's best support team ready to provide assistance 24/7. At MobileCause, we're just as committed to your cause as you are, and together we can grow your nonprofit like never before. Now, let me introduce you to our presenters, both fundraising experts. Cindy May is the founder of Cindy May Marketing, teaching small nonprofit leaders, fundraisers, marketing, and communication professionals the marketing strategies that help attract and retain donors, increase awareness and support to accelerate their growth and create the impact they most want in the world. She provides weekly nonprofit marketing tips, tools, and strategies on her Smart Marketing for Small Nonprofit podcast and monthly mission marketing school masterclasses with some of the best teachers, trainers, marketing superstars in the world of nonprofits. Cindy Knoll is the Vice President of Digital Marketing Services at MobileCause, where she is responsible for creating, driving, and delivering programs to help MobileCause customers and partners advance their marketing and fundraising objectives. Christy is the former board chair of Girls on the Run of Los Angeles County and marketing director and a dog foster for Noah's Bark Dog Rescue. Now, today we have a really informative agenda for you, packed with helpful insights and takeaways. We'll take a deep dive into your campaign with creative last-minute strategies, guaranteed to drive more giving and share how to transform your thank yous into compelling communications that increase giving and inspire long-term loyalty. All right, so before we begin discussing last-minute strategies to boost year-end giving, we have a quick poll for everyone. So we want to know, where does your year-end giving campaign stand? So let me open up the poll here. All right, you should be seeing that. So yeah, where does your year-end giving campaign stand? Are you ready to go? And in fact, you've already launched it. Do you have the pieces in place, but still trying to get it together? You started planning, but a little behind schedule, or well, there's still time to create a campaign, right? So let's see how these answers are coming in. All right, getting some good responses here. All right, I'll give it another couple seconds here, see these results. Nice to see these answers. All right, let me go ahead and close this up here, and let's take a look at those real quick. So, really kind of interesting results. You know, nice to see a lot of you are ready to go and already launched it. And for those with the pieces in place and started planning, and hey, you know, there's still time. You know what? These are really interesting here. So good news, wherever you are in your year-end giving strategy, our webinar today will have some truly helpful tips and ideas for your nonprofit for wherever you are in that strategy. So let's get into it. So join me in welcoming Christy Noel to start us off with 7 last-minute strategies to boost or start your year-end giving. So let me give control, and Christy, over to you.
Great, thank you, Scott. I'm really excited to be here today and excited to see that so many of you have already at least dipped your toe in the water of getting your year-end campaign going. And no worries for those of you that are feeling a little behind schedule, because the tips that I've put together here don't require a lot of time or resources to ramp up. So let's get into them and start talking about them. But real quick, before I do, just want to remind everybody of the significance of year-end giving. You probably already know this if you're a nonprofit fundraiser, but always worth reminding ourselves that just because the tax laws changed a couple of years ago, or is it 1 year now? Time flies. It doesn't mean that year-end giving isn't still going strong. In fact, about 1/3 of all annual giving occurs in the month of December. And 10 to 12% of all annual giving, so for the entire year, for some nonprofits, happens in 10 to 12% of that happens in the last 3 days of the year. And for 28% of nonprofits, they're receiving up to 50% of their entire year funds from their year-end giving campaign. So it is a significant campaign for all of our nonprofit customers and friends. And December 31st is the single biggest giving day of the year. So if you are not prepared for all of that, let's jump on board and let you get there. We want to help you hit your goals. Specifically because now that we understand the importance of year-end giving, not that we ever doubted it, right? You might be thinking, okay, Christy, there are only 20 days left in the year. What can I possibly still get done for my year-end campaign? And I would answer that I'm very glad you asked, because the strategies and tips I have don't require a lot of prep time, they don't require a lot of effort, and they don't require a lot of resources. And by that, I mean either staff or money. These are all strategies you can implement fairly easily and still make a big impact on your campaign. So, tip number 1 is regarding your website, because we've all heard it takes something like 7 marketing or promotional messages to make us act. And you never know if that email appeal you send for your year-end giving campaign is message number 1 or message number 7. So you can't bank on the fact that your donor will click on the link in your email at that moment she's reading it and make your donation. Because in fact, many donors will go to your website to donate at a more convenient time. So the smart thing to do is make sure it's easy to donate on your website, because when they decide to donate later, after they've read your text message, or they saw a social media post, or they got an email, and their best friend mentions your great organization, a lot of them will go to your site to donate. So my question for you then is, can they easily find the donate button? Is it big? Is it bold? Is it a different color? Is it at the very top? Definitely above the fold. And when they click on that big, bold donate button, is the form, your donation giving form, popping up and very easy to complete? Or do you have a page of 17 different links for them to select for matching gifts, and a different link to donate with American Express, and a different link to donate with PayPal or payroll, and on and on? Many of you might be thinking, oh, Christy, nobody would do that, that's extreme. But let me tell you, I have seen that, and too many orgs make it challenging for donors to give. So please don't be one of them. There's a marketing saying that if you confuse, you lose. And it is true for giving too. If you make the donor work too hard or make it too confusing or they too difficult, they'll give up rather than give. So make it super easy, have that big donate button, is an easy to use form. You can even include year-end giving branding. Think of it as a treasure map, kind of leaving the breadcrumbs of where you want to lead them. So have a donation pop-up that reminds people that it's year-end giving and that you want them to donate, and direct them to a very easy user experience. Tip number 2 is to, once they've landed on your giving form, either through your website or through your social media or through your email or your text message, brand it to year end. Remind them that that's where they're supposed to be. It kind of goes back to that treasure map. You're going to continue to reinforce each step of the process as you lead them down the path that you want them to follow. So talk about what you've achieved this year and where the funds will go to support in 2020, and address why their donation at this time of year is so important. You might want to give them something to aim for, like a goal. And a goal for a year-end campaign doesn't necessarily have to be the total amount raised. It could be a certain number of donors that you want to participate in the campaign, or the number of gifts you want to receive. Maybe the goal is to increase the number of recurring donations, or bring in new donors to your organization. So all of these can be used on or displayed on your year-end campaign giving form. Supporters love helping you achieve a goal. So if you tell them what you're aiming for, they can play a part in helping you get there. Also, donors can give at any time, whether they give on December 30th or May 31st or June 17th. It's still important to you, but you need to tell them why it's more important that at the end of December, their gift is needed. So create a sense of urgency of why it's needed now. You can include a countdown clock counting down till midnight on the 31st. You could continue to give updates via social, text, email of how much is left to raise as you're closing in on the last days and minutes of 2019. You can tell people how many more donors are needed to reach the goal before the ball drops. But you want to reinforce the urgency of why it's more important to get that gift on December 31st or December 28th than it is a month or 2 months from now. Include impact metrics on what various gift amounts will do for your organization. So rather than just saying, please give us a donation of $5 or $25 or $100, it's much more impactful and helps drive a higher gift amount if you tell the donor what that donation can help support. So sure, I could give a $25 donation, but if I know that a $50 donation is going to feed a family for a week, I'm much more likely to give more. And then if I find out that I can give $100 and feed a family of 2 for 2 weeks, well, heck yeah, I want to do the most that I can. So whether that's how much it can buy or how much gas it can put in a car to get a patient to the hospital. And that doesn't mean, and I get asked this a lot, so it doesn't mean that that gift is actually going to buy a gift card, but that's what it can do. So don't feel like you're bait and switching or it's any deceiving, because what you're saying is all the money is going to go into the general fund. We know that most likely, but the difference between a $25 gift and a $50 gift will enable you to do this much more for your beneficiaries. And then my last tip for your year-end donations giving page is to use your storytelling. Bring people into your story. Describe how you've changed their lives or their lives have improved. Showcase the transformation of one person, of a school, of an animal. Pull at their heartstrings and make them the hero for enabling the transformation. And this is an important distinction that we share with our clients here at Mobile Cause, is that you want to make sure the donor is the hero. You, the organization, are not the hero. The donor is the hero who is enabling all of this great work. and the changing of lives and the changing of the world. You are simply the guide, enabling the hero to make the difference. Tip number 3 is on social media. So you probably are feeling, or maybe you are feeling, or maybe you're not, but a lot of our clients feel that they are posting frequently on social media. And so when I tell them to increase the frequency, they're often hesitant, wait, I've already doing so much. But I want you to stop and consider the organic reach of Facebook is currently 6.4%, which means if you're not advertising and you're just posting on your Facebook page, on average, about 6 out of every 100 page follows are actually seeing that post. So if only 6 out of every 100 on your followers are seeing the post, do you still feel like you're posting enough? Because you're probably not. So to get seen, you'll need to be posting more frequently, knowing that the majority of people won't see those posts. And don't worry about posting too frequently or bombarding your supporters with messages. And here's why I say that. One, you should always have compelling content, whether that's success stories, donor spotlights, program updates, the impact that you make, infographics on the difference you're seeing in the world or something along those lines. But if it's compelling content, your supporters are going to love it. And they won't mind seeing them, even if they do see them more frequently than some of the other followers. Again, your supporters won't likely see every message. Thank you, Facebook algorithm. So the likelihood of them, any donor seeing every single one of your message is not particularly high unless they've chosen to put you at the top of their feed, in which case they're truly a supporter and they're going to love it all anyway. And our mobile calls to customers who have historically had successful days of giving or year-end giving campaign or Giving Tuesday, they posted a lot. So we know it works. We've seen universities post up to 100 times a day on a single day of giving. We've seen medical organization for Giving Tuesday that went live on Facebook every hour. And we've seen a small dog rescue group who posted 7 times within 12 hours on Giving Tuesday and still only reached less than half of the supporters. So my suggestion is you're better to overpost and generate the action that you need than to underpost and wonder what went wrong with your campaign. So if you're on board with that, let's talk about how you can use social media for year-end giving. Facebook is great for information about your organization, providing updates on the progress towards your goal, including videos of your impact, and you can put your text to donate keyword and short code on that video so people can see that as they're watching the video. And Facebook is great for acknowledging and tagging donors. We had one organization who thanked their donors by taking pictures of their animals with a handwritten note next to the animal that said, "Thank you for your gift, Christy," and posted on their Facebook page and tagged their donor. It was super great, super personal, and really cute. So I'm often asked if it's okay to tag a donor for privacy reasons and stuff. And what I recommend is that you have a checkbox on your giving form to ask if it's okay to be tagged in social media and to acknowledge them and let the donor choose whether to do that or not. Another option is to just use first names, so the donor will know that you're talking about them, but you don't have to use their first and last name. But it's always better to tag a donor or supporter or volunteer if you can, because then that increases the awareness of the post because it's shared through their feed as well as your own. And that's on Facebook specifically. Instagram stories, if you're familiar with Instagram stories, they go away after 24 hours. So this is a great option to do videos, quick updates on your year-end giving campaign. You can share a little bit about your programs for 2020, how the funds will be used. Again, a great opportunity to thank donors, express your appreciation and gratitude for your support. Instagram stories is a great way to do your countdown clock or tell people every hour how close you are to reaching your goal or how many supporters or donors you still need to reach for the night. especially on New Year's Eve. Your Instagram feed, that's a great place for photos of your program in action, your year-end review pictures, quotes, and stats of your impact. Those are things that people really like on Instagram, is you'll see a lot of quotes, a lot of images of stats, and then beautiful pictures of your program in action, and your gala, your donors, your supporters. And then Twitter is a great place to continue to show pictures, generate polls, retweet and reply to your supporters and volunteers and donors' tweets. You can also include infographics and showing the impact of your donations in Twitter. As far as a posting schedule, again, from the previous slide, we talked about increasing your frequency of posting, particularly the last few days of the month, year, and in this case, decade. At a minimum, I would recommend at least 2 posts per day per social media platform on the 26th through the 28th, and then up that to 5 posts a day, the 29th through the 31st, and 5 posts per social media platform. That's my personal recommendation. You can look at your analytics and see when your followers are following you and how well they interact to decide if you need to increase that, or if you have recommended times for when to do that works well. Facebook often gives you when your followers are most engaged with you. But I would also say, if you are not on every social media platform, this is not the time to jump in on them. Use the ones that you are currently engaged with and posting regularly and have and your followers are expecting it from you. And that doesn't need to be all of them. You could focus on the 2 that you do best or that you're most comfortable with, but not the time to sign up for every social media platform and get started. Tip number 4 is to use year-end giving as an opportunity to ramp up your outreach. So you can do this by making phone calls or having a phone-a-thon. And I'm sure some of you cringed when I said that because you hate the idea of calling people or don't want to ask others to call people. And what I would tell you is, 1, most of the time you're going to get voicemail. People don't pick up phone numbers they don't recognize, so you're not going to get a lot of people on the phone. When you do, because I have done these, when you do, they're usually thrilled to hear from you, especially with the nature of the call is to thank them for their support and just acknowledge them. But the simple act of reaching out via phone call, whether it's through voicemail or you get somebody on the phone live, is to thank them for their support and to request their continued assistance. It goes such a long way to cultivate relationships and driving donations. So because we're in a world where people don't actually make calls and use the phone that often, that becomes really a personal and intimate tactic that a lot of people aren't doing and can make a real impression on your donors and supporters. Also, because of this age of impersonal contact, a handwritten note will stand out. So you can have these done by your staff, your volunteers, your board members. And my favorite is when I get a note that is either written or created by the beneficiaries. So as the board chair for Girls on the Run of Los Angeles County, I always loved it when we sent thank you notes that were created by the girls in the program. They were so heartfelt, they were creative, and they're original, and they were so cute and really stood out in my head about that organization when I was getting information from others. You can host an event to celebrate your donors. It can be a tea or an office open house, an add-on to another bigger event. So you don't have to, I'm not talking about having a open cocktail party at a very swanky resort place. No, it can be a very simple tea and open house in your office. But it's an extra special way to give your best supporters some more love and attention. Again, using Girls on the Run, we had a special pop-up tent. It was literally a tent in a parking lot at the 5K. And we had donuts and hot coffee for our donors and supporters. And let me tell you, at an early morning run walk, these were as good as a VIP cocktail party, and it was a lot less money and a lot less effort. But these celebrating your donor events can be used as part of the nurturing process to help inspire more recurring giving and really make your donors feel appreciated. We talked about tagging donors and supporters in social media posts and how that broadens your awareness because the shows on the wall of the person tagged makes them feel extra special. And if you have special photos of them or other ways to acknowledge them and make that picture not just a generic picture. If you don't have the picture of the donor, you can again use a sign or a volunteer or one of the beneficiaries saying, thank you, Julia, for your donation, in the picture. You can do donor spotlights, donor interviews of why they give. It's much more powerful to have a donor tell you why they give than to explain to donors why they should give to you. So the more you can have the donors talking about the importance of the organization and why they support it, then that's so meaningful to other donors. The touch points, this was a poll that we did with our Mobile Cause customers, and only 2% were doing more than 20 touch points for their year-end giving campaign. Most were doing between 0 and 4, which I would recommend you need to do more than 4 touch points for your year-end giving campaign. Somewhere between 5 and 20, which you can see was about 38% of our customers. So find ways that you can increase your outreach, whether it includes social and email and direct mail and personal touch, but to break through all of the activity at the end of the year, I really recommend that you up your outreach. Tip number 5 is using Facebook Live. The great thing about Facebook Live is you don't have to spend the same time and effort of taking multiple takes that you do in producing a video or having to produce and edit that video, and there's no fancy set required. A nice background is nice, but no, you don't have to rent a studio and you don't need fancy equipment or any huge expense. You can go live on Facebook with a phone, a computer, or a tablet. And it often feels much more personal than a produced video because you're talking one-on-one with them in the moment. Facebook Lives can be short or long. There's no requirement or for what the length is or how it will be effective. In fact, I would recommend doing some that are longer and some that are shorter and see what works, what resonates with your community. As I previously noted, one of our clients went live on Facebook every hour for Giving Tuesday, and they did the same thing. Sometimes they were short and sometimes they were long. So there's no frequency requirement or too much. And in case you didn't know it, Facebook gives preference to Facebook Live videos. So likely there'll be nobody watching when you're live, or it could only be a handful of people, and that's okay because you will get preference on the replay. So you're going to get most of your views when it's posted to your page after you go live. And that's one of the objectives of it as well. So use Facebook Live to tour your office, introduce your staff. You can talk about your organization. You can go out live in the field where your program is in action, whether that's showing how you're feeding the hungry. Maybe you're at a pet adoption event and you're showcasing the animals available. Maybe you have a jingle run at the end of the year and you can go to Facebook Live and show everybody running and walking and talking to supporters and donors. You can have a lot of fun with it. You can look at the camera and just talk about what the impact of your organization has been in the last year and why it's important that you continue to get people to support. You could have board members do it. You could interview donors, beneficiaries, and yes, you can include appeals in your Facebook Live. So you can provide all sorts of information, but you can also use it as an opportunity to ask for gifts. And this is a great place where a text to donate keyword and short code works great because you can talk it out and people can use their phones to text in to donate without having to have a link available right then during your Facebook Live. Number 6, closing in on our last tips, email and text message. Highly recommend you take a multi-channel year-end giving campaign approach to get as much awareness as possible. We know that the more tactics you use, the more likely people are going to see them and open them. including web, text, email, social. And because of the time of year, we are all going to be getting a lot of email. And so by sending multiple messages, you're more likely going to get them seen and opened. Again, an email has a typical average open rate of around 20%. So don't put all your eggs in one email basket. Send multiple emails and send multiple text messages. Why text? Your supporters have their smart device with them 24/7, and text messages have a 98% open rate. So it's a great opportunity to communicate with your donors and have them be seen. Just remember, if you haven't been texting with supporters regularly, don't start texting with an ask. Start by sharing information about your organization, do some storytelling, warm up your donors prior to making an ask. And for best practices, we recommend at least 4 messages that are not an appeal before you make an appeal via text. And I would recommend both with text and email, try different messages. Everyone responds differently. So you might have a couple of short emails and short text messages for those who don't like to read, they just want to cut to the chase. There's going to be people who love the emotional component of a longer storytelling email or a link to a video that tells all that storytelling. So have some emails and text messages that address those types of readers. Include video, include pictures and images, and be creative with your subject lines. This is the single biggest factor in getting your email opened. So I would not recommend every email with year-end giving appeal or things like that nature. Really be creative and have somebody pique their interest or ask a question that they're going to open the email to get the answer to. And then increase the frequency of both email and text messages the last 3 days of the year. So as you're doing these for sending texts and emails over the last couple of weeks, the last 3 days you want to increase the frequency for both. And number 7, success stories. So don't just tell about your organization, tell what you've done and share who you've benefited. And even better if the beneficiaries tell their stories themselves. So this is an excellent opportunity to use video. Video works so great for success stories. And again, it doesn't have to be produced video. In fact, authentic selfie videos are much more impactful than a produced one. People love selfie videos and they will stop and watch them. So remember to include your impact metrics. So $25 will put shoes on a homeless child and $50 will buy them a coat. Let people know that in your success stories and your videos. And just to reinforce the importance of video in an appeal, 57% of people who watch nonprofit videos will make a donation. And video on social generates 1,200% more shares than text and images combined. So we are in a video world and people will stop and watch on social if there's a video. So put together some short, quick success stories for this campaign and work up to maybe longer, different ones going into 2020, but it will really make a difference in your campaign. And then my final tips are just some essentials for your year-end giving campaign. When you send your emails and social media posts, remember to put a link to your giving page in it. You might want to try on some of your social media posts to put the link in the comments instead of in the body, just to help the algorithm not send. Facebook doesn't like to drive too many people off to a giving point form, so put it in the comments, and that'll sometimes help. I don't do it on all of them, but I do it on occasionally just to kind of test the waters. For video and social media images, that's where you want to put your text to donate keyword and short code so people see it visually. You can also put that on direct mail pieces, on envelopes, and on printed materials. Remind donors that their gifts are tax deductible. Send a thank you immediately after receiving a gift, and send a tax receipt immediately after receiving a gift. This is especially important at year end. So I hope you found these tips helpful to get your year-end campaign underway, but we have even more information on the importance of a thank you and sending the right letter can actually increase donations. And so there's more to come on that. But before, I'm going to send it back to Scott.
Thank you, Christy, and thanks for all the wonderful insights into jumpstarting and up-leveling your year-end giving campaign. Now, as a quick reminder, if you have any questions, you can feel free to submit them into the question box on your control panel as we go along. We're answering questions as they come in, and then we'll save some of the ones that work for everybody for the end as well. So definitely feel free to put your questions in there. And with that, now let me turn this over to Cindy May from Cindy May Marketing for the whys and hows of thank you emails that inspire more future giving. Okay, Cindy, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Scott. I appreciate that. And thank you, Christy, for all that wonderful information. I know this time of year is so incredibly busy for our nonprofit friends. There is certainly a lot going on. And I want to just talk a little bit about how the process of thanking your donors by way of email can really help make all the effort that you're putting in to getting these end of year donations really work for you and keep things going long term. So here we see a quote that says, a donation is just the beginning, not the end of your marketing outreach if you want people to keep giving. That is the key here. Now, I really want to give this some perspective because there's so much work that is done on the front end of developing your end of year campaign, right? You've got all the wonderful tools and strategies that Christy was talking about to get people inspired to give to your organization and to your cause. But with that focus and that effort, oftentimes the thank you process becomes part of maybe a systematic approach, just something that you feel as though, okay, we've gone through all this, we've got a new donor, it's so very exciting, we're so thrilled to say that we have these new donors, we need to make sure that we thank them and we'll send an automated response to thank them for their donation, and then we'll just move on into communicating with them, later on through our standard channels of communication. I want you to stop and think a little bit about what it takes to get that donor so that they are inspired to give. Let's just kind of walk through that process where they are at that point where they're going to pull out their credit card and they're going to make that contribution, and they have seen information on your website. They watched that video. They have gone to that donation page using all the strategies that Christy talked about that really brings them to the point of making that decision to donate. It's an emotional decision, right? So if after they have made that decision to donate to your organization and they get an automated email that simply gives them information about how much they gave and this is what you can use for tax purposes, that's really not going to help them to maintain that feeling of excitement, right? It needs to be so much more. So I want to then just talk about the importance of it just from a statistical standpoint, okay? The number one reason people keep giving is because they were thanked well. And 90% of first-time donors are being lost by some nonprofits on an annual basis. 4 to 5 first-time donors will not return to give again, and it costs approximately 10 times more to acquire a new donor than to keep an existing one. So those are some pretty dramatic numbers when you stop to think about all the work that you've done to get that person to give, and the likelihood of them giving again when we look at these numbers can be a bit deflating. But there's ways that you can not fall into the norm of these numbers and stand out from the crowd. And that really comes into play when we talk about thanking our donors. Now, I know there are a lot of great ways that you probably go about thanking donors. There's probably a list there. And you can see we've got the emails that we can send. We can send out letters that are signed by our CEO or board members, like Christy was talking about, that really makes people feel like they are valued and appreciated for their contribution. We can send out postcards, host special events, we can make phone calls, all of which are all well and good. But I really want you to pay attention to the next bullet point. Email still remains the preferred method. 69% of donors prefer to be thanked for their donation by email, regardless of how they made that donation, whether they gave you a check, whether they, text to give, or whatever the case may be, they expect an email. Now, in their mind, and it makes sense, right? They're making a contribution and they've done it perhaps digitally. And so they're in that frame of mind to check their email to see if they got acknowledgement of the gift. That's their frame of mind. Did I get acknowledged for the gift so that I can have a receipt for my records? That is something that you absolutely want to do. Those are the practical reasons for your thank you emails. However, you as the marketer and communicator in the nonprofit need to use that opportunity when they're in that frame of mind of receiving an email that is going to acknowledge their gift. This is the prime opportunity for you to really cultivate and build that relationship that will help them to maintain their spirit of giving with you. This is where you can create a connection with them on a much deeper level because they're looking for that email. The open rates of thank you emails are incredibly high. So I want to talk about ways that you can structure that thank you email to further develop the connection, cultivate the relationship, express gratitude, and uses it as an opportunity to educate and inform your donors about the mission of your organization so that they stay really connected to the cause. This is how you're going to be able to step outside of the norm of losing first-time donors or even long-term donors and retain them and increase donations. It really does start with a thank you email. So now I'm going to spend the majority of the time talking about what should be included in your thank you email. I'm going to go through all of these points that are listed here on this slide. And in fact, I have a guide for you that Scott will share with you that will give you the details and some templates about how you can go about structuring your thank you email. I call it the new donor messaging guide. And you can grab that. So if you don't have notes that you're taking right now, rest assured you can get this information in that guide. So the essentials, I'll run through these and just the check marks, and then I'll go into more detail. Personalized, you want to communicate the impact, as Christy was saying, communicate the amount, and then you want to make certain that they feel like they are the hero by providing a thank you message in that email, obviously. So these are the essentials. But I want to say that on the first check there, personalization, I don't know if you all have heard this, but I think it came from Neil Patel. Personalization is the new marketing. So if you stop to think about that, there are so many people who are in that frame of mind of giving at the end of the year, and even the giving that they do throughout the year. And if they are receiving communications and thank yous from these organizations that really don't speak to them directly, it feels mechanical. So there's ways in which you can personalize communications that really gets people to feel like they are experiencing all the wonderful emotions that they had before in deciding to your organization, deciding to donate to your organization. Now they're able to continue that feeling when you are sending personalized messages to them. There's ways that you can do that through your subject lines, including their first name, and also in the greeting of that email, you would want to add their first name. I would go so far as to say that you would want to ditch the dear so-and-so. That just has a different kind of feel to it than if you were to recognize by their first name. You could say, hi or hello, Emily. Or if you aren't comfortable with that and you want a more formal approach, you feel that's more in line with the professional status of your organization, you could opt for, maybe, hi, Mrs. Jones. The goal here is to set a tone that is more conversational instead of that stuffy feeling that it makes them feel like they are just getting a standardized kind of communication. So that's the first way that you can incorporate personalization into your thank you email. The other thing that needs to be included in that thank you email would be the gift details. You want to acknowledge the amount of your new donor, and it's even great if you could include mention of how they gave. So thank you for your online donation. Thank you for contributing at this event. Thank you for your end of year donation. That's another way of personalizing the number that they gave towards your organization, but also recognizing that you know how it is that they gave specifically. You know, it's just a little detail, but those little details really do stand out, and it shows that you're paying attention, and that will make your donor feel so much more valued and respected. The total amount raised, if you are doing some sort of a campaign or if there's a goal that you can mention in your thank you email, this would be something that you could use as a personal touch as well. This demonstrates how your new donor is part of a group making a difference, and it builds that sense of community. Plus, it shows transparency, which really increases your organization's credibility. So the amount can be communicated specific to how much they gave, or it could also be used as a total to let them know where you're at in the status of your end of year giving if you have a goal. And then the really important parts to include that I think is often overlooked in a thank you email, and Christy mentioned this in the information that you would include on a donation page or in your communications as you're doing outreach to get them to give, but you want to include details about the impact. This is where you get to explain what their donation is going to support and the impact that it will have on creating, helping you move your mission forward. And this is where it allows you to create a deeper connection to your cause for that particular donor. If they know specifically what it is that their donation is going towards, and they are communicated with in that thank you email a way that helps them, really recognize again that they're giving to this particular cause and what the impact is going to be, that is again a feel-good way of incorporating thank you message into your email. And then the other thing you can do is you can invite them to learn more. This is where you have an opportunity, as they are going to open that in your email that is thanking them, and they're more likely to do that, right? Because we've already talked about that. They're on the hunt for that email. They're looking for that acknowledgement. Well, they're in the mindset of, okay, I've already given to this organization. I really I've got a connection to this cause that made me want to give. I'm being thanked for my gift. They've done a communication piece that helps me understand the impact of my donation. So they might be willing to, click around and get to know you even a little bit more. So I encourage people in their thank you emails at the bottom to include a link to the website, invite them to follow you on your social media channels. This is the opportunity to really expand the ways in which you can stay connected with this new donor. And the other part that is important in that thank you email that I think often is overlooked is the way that you close out that communication. You don't want to just say thank you so much and leave it at that and not really provide them the opportunity to get to know where that thank you came from. Perhaps it's from the development director, or it's your executive director or whomever it might be, but close off with your name and title. And another personal touch is to incorporate a personal signature. So there are a few ways that you can just add these personal touches in your thank you email. Will go a long way in helping you to retain those donors and help you to get them to give even more beyond just the practical reasons. I really want you to consider these personal touches that will make your thank you email work so much more for you in the long term. Now, there are a few other things that you can incorporate, but I will give a word of caution. You don't want to add all of these things to a thank you email. It really depends on how they came to you. If they gave at a smaller level, perhaps you invite them to give on a monthly basis. You could include a message about that. Thank you so much for your contribution. Would you consider giving monthly if it's a smaller? You wouldn't want to do that for somebody who gave at a higher level. And another way, and Christy mentioned this, to really get a sense of why they chose to donate, you could include a survey. And this isn't just self-serving for your organization so that you can say, okay, now we know why they gave, so we can, segment them and create communication specific to that. Asking people their thoughts and their feelings about why they chose to donate to your organization also is beneficial to them because they feel that they are being valued and appreciated and want to be understood for making that decision to donate to your organization. So you could include a link to a survey. I mentioned incorporating social links. I think that that is a great way to start the conversation in different channels, because the truth of the matter is emails on a regular basis are going to probably see declining open rates as you move along that relationship with that particular donor in email form. So if they're connected in your social channels, you have more opportunity to stay in front of them. And then thank you follow-up emails. This is not a one and done kind of process that I want you to think of creating this thank you email one time. You want to be sure to thank donors on a regular basis. A thank you without an ask throughout the course of a year is really important. So we know that we want to send them a thank you communication immediately after that donation is received. They're going to more than likely open that email, but several touch points throughout the year so that they can continue to feel connected to your organization without always feeling as though it's going to come with an ask is a really incredibly important part of what you should consider as your communication program long term. So crafting a thank you, it just gives people a second chance to enjoy the way donating made them feel when they first gave. And we know that, giving feels good. So you want to be sure to do that. It makes them feel like they are really making a difference and having an impact on the world, and being able to send an email that acknowledges that and give them a second chance to experience those feelings is really important. So I hope that really gives you some thoughts and ideas about how it is you can use your thank you email to really supplement all the work that you're doing as you are working so hard to attract these new donors, end of year donors. You can continue inspiring them and keeping them connected with your cause, and that thank you email right after they give is a way that you can continue that process moving forward. So Scott, I guess I'll pass it back to you and Christy.
All right, thank you, Cindy, and thank you, Christy, for both of you for sharing such really valuable expertise with us today. We really hope everyone here is inspired to test out these ideas on their own year-end giving fundraiser and thank you emails so that you can reach more supporters and bring in more donation before year's end. Now, before we go ahead and jump into our Q&A, I want to ask a quick question here. Are you interested in learning more? Would you like more information from either Mobile Cause and or from Cindy? So let me go ahead and launch this poll and give this just a few seconds here. Just testing to see where people are. All right. Okay, we'll go ahead and close this up, and yeah, thanks for the responses on there. All right, so let's get to some of these questions here. So the first one I have here, let me scroll up and find them here. First question is for Cindy. Is it too much to write a personal thank you message and include a giving envelope without comment in it, just in case they wanted to give again?
You know, Scott, I would really advise that it would depend on the giving level. Like I mentioned earlier, if it is a higher amount, I wouldn't go out with a thank you message and put an envelope in there and ask them to give again, especially without comment. I think it kind of undermines the process here. So I think I would suggest that people really think about the giving level and threshold where they feel somebody would be receptive to afterwards, after giving a smaller level, and not included in the higher level thank yous.
Okay, great. All right, another one here for you. Does length matter for these thank you emails, or
It
what
really
is a good length? Yeah.
Yeah, it really does matter. You don't want it to be too long, because in email form, people are going to kind of scan through it, and you want to get the point across, as I mentioned, with all those communication checklist points. You want to have your personalized greeting. You want to make sure that you very quickly recognize the amount, the impact, and then get to the piece where you can personalize with details about how they gave, and then just express how much you truly appreciate their support. Messages about how they are the heroes in this process, as Christy had mentioned, is a great way to end that email. But I would not go more than 4 small paragraphs, like 1 or 2 sentence paragraphs in your thank you email. And a great way to pull out those points, those personalization points, would be to bold some of those pieces within the email. Bolding in an email is just kind of viewed as a way to grab people's attention. It's like this little speed bump in the way that your eyes are reading a communication. So if you bold the pieces that you really want to stand out, that is going to create that connection factor for you, that would be a good way to do so. So yes, be cognizant of how long your emails are. Don't make them too long. Be direct and to the point with those personalization points, and your thank you email will serve you well.
Okay, great. All right, so let's see. Looking at our time, I think we got time for 1, maybe 2 more. Cindy, we're going to monopolize you here. So next one here is, how long can you go before right after is no longer right after? Is it 2 days, a week, a month? What's kind of
Sure.
time frame?
Yeah, so I think the standard approach, most people have a database program that is going to have an autoresponder. So that can be your immediate. And again, I want to encourage people, take a look at that auto response report or process that you have in play. Find ways that you can personalize it if you can. But then I think a follow-up thank you email with more of the details that I included in the checklist could be sent about 2 to 3 days after. If it goes longer, it's okay. It's better, let's say a week goes by and you haven't got that thank you email and you think, is it too long? Well, no, it's never too late to thank somebody, right? So a week goes by, you still haven't sent it, you're wondering if you should. I say yes. And if it's longer than that, let's say it's a month after somebody is given and you realize, oh my gosh, I didn't send a personalized thank you email. There are ways that you can message that email a little bit differently and still make sure that they are recognized and thanked for that gift. So I say, regardless of the time that goes by, you want to make sure that somehow, some way, you make sure that there's recognition of that gift, because those stats that we talked about earlier about not giving again, if you don't say thank you at all, you're going to be part of that group for sure.
Okay, great. All right, so I think we've got time for one more here. I'm going to give this one over to Christy. What are some suggestions for obtaining emails for non-website donors? Many of our donors mail checks or give credit cards and ignore all the fill-out sections for email.
That's a great challenge to overcome. And what I would recommend is that you give them a reason to field. So whether that's to Cindy's slide, where majority of people prefer to get a thank you via email, you could say, can we get your email address to send you a thank you note? Maybe you could tell them that you're going to send program updates, or you've got some new information coming and you want to share it with them. maybe you have some type of free guide or some type of other infographic or video that you can share with them via email. So give them a compelling reason to provide their email. And you might also want to consider putting a text in form. They could text a short code and a keyword and get on your mailing list that way. So give them a reason to sign up for something or to download something that way as well. And that will capture the information for future use.
Okay, great. Well, with that, looks like our time is done. So in continuing with donor thank yous, next week MobileCause will be sending out an email with our thanking donors infographic, sharing more ways that you can show donors your gratitude and inspire more repeat donations. Now, if you're interested in Cindy May's new donor message guide, we have the link in there. We do have it in the chat as well, so you can get it from there, and we'll also send out the information as well, so you can get to it many ways. But if you're interested in discovering how MobileCause can help maximize your fundraising efforts so that you can raise more with less time and effort, please fill out our post-webinar survey or visit www.mobilecause.com. And well, that's what the time we have for today. So if you have questions that were not answered today, go ahead and email them to marketing@mobilecause.com. And again, thank you so much for our speakers, as well as you attending today's webinar, and best of luck in all of your fundraising efforts. We really look forward to seeing you again next month at our webinar on annual planning. So have a wonderful day, everyone. Thanks for your time.